Um, Welcome to the March 25th, 2026 Committee on Finance meeting. And this meeting is conducted in hybrid format with opportunity for both councils and members of the public to attend in person or participate remotely. So this meeting is about the capital improvement. So if anybody wants to talk about anything, could you do the roll call?
Sure. Let's see. Councillor Clemmer.
Here.
Councillor Robbins.
Here.
Councillor Davis.
Here.
And Councillor Maori.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. So we're allotting 15 minutes for people to talk about things other than what's on the capital improvement program, and that'll be 2 minutes each. So if there's anybody that wants to speak about something other than capital improvement, please raise your hand, and then we'll go back and forth from Zoom to people in the room if necessary.
Is relevant that it is included in the capital improvement expenditures? Is now the time, or is there?
Then you could wait, and when we talk about that, then you could. Thanks. Okay, so we have Adam Grief. Please state your name and where you're from.
Sure. Hi there. It's Adam Greff.
Thank you.
I live in Florence. This is my first time on one of these city council, so I'm just going to comment. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to like you mentioned the capital thing, so I hope it's okay for me to make these comments. But I have two children. One of them's in first grade at Leeds Elementary. One of them will be there in a couple years, and it's my understanding that there's a few things like being discussed today that impact the schools. Which I think one of them is some money for pouches for the phone to phone, the bell to bell phone ban. And I just want to say I totally support that ban. My children are young, but I just really hope that there's no phones in the schools when they get old enough to have a phone. And I really support money being given to the schools to use it for pouches or other means for them to handle taking those phones during the day so that kids are, able to live their lives, more normally without those phones during the school day. I very much support that. I also want to say that I recently became aware of like this big expenditure that's for Chromebooks. My children are not old enough for that yet, but I'm really question like all this technology that these kids are getting in the middle school. And it seems like it was sort of like a knee-jerk reaction during COVID, I think, to get everyone these one-to-one devices, all the students. And I just think that there's a lot of evidence. I've been reading like article after article the past few months about how tech has just infiltrated the schools. And a lot of it is not really backed up by third-party, evidence that it's good. And then in addition to that, there's AI involved now where I believe that the high schoolers, I think, at the school have access to AI. And I mean, I just think it's just becoming very obvious that AI is just detrimental to learning for children. I mean, it's like to be able to just sit and write an essay or be able to sit and read a book. I think these things are just being eroded by all this technology. So I'm not against the technology, completely. It has a place for sure, but just like maybe it's time to pause and see what it means. Like, do we want to spend this much money on these Chromebooks?
Yeah, that's fine. You could
Okay,
just.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody in the room? No. Amy Martin, please state your name and where you're from.
Excuse me, are we doing capital improvement now?
No, you don't have to write this stuff down.
It feels like some of this is relevant. It's not. Okay.
That's supposed to be. Amy Martin.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Thank you for the hard work you do on this committee. I'm Amy Martin. I live in Northampton. And as you know, I'm a member of the school committee and the school committee's budget and property subcommittee. And I'm here today to ask you to remove all items related to the Northampton Public School District in Order 26.022 from that order and send them back to school committee for review. One of the three roles of the school committee, as you know, is developing and overseeing the budget of the school district, including all school buildings and grounds, fixtures, furniture, equipment, and their maintenance, and all curriculum. The superintendent has been directed by us to review capital projects going forward in the fall before they are shared with the Mayor's Advisory Committee, which has not happened in the past. But the items in Order 26.022 have only just been now brought to the school committee for the first time in the budget book that we got a week or two ago, and which we will not vote on for a number of weeks. So while this has been the practice in the past, I ask that you change your process and bring it in alignment with the actual legal role of the school committee. So thank you for considering correcting what I think has been a misstep in process for a long time. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Sue Sullivan. Please state your name and where you live.
Hi, Sue Sullivan. I live in Northampton and I teach at Northampton High School. And I am also echoing what Amy Martin said. It was my understanding that the cell phone policy would be in the rules committee of the school committee right now, and they still have not gone through due process with that, as well as the other items in the capital expenditure itemized for school. But just so you know, I am in full support of the purchase of Yonder pouches for cell phones. As a teacher at the high school, I am seeing firsthand the number of fights we've had at the building this year. For example, where kids are more preoccupied with filming the fights and posting them on social media versus going to the classroom for a stay in place. So I'm very concerned with the use of cell phones at school, especially for my English language learners, because they're always wearing their earbuds in the hallway. They're not getting receptive English. And I'd love to see a process where we are bell to bell, no cell phones. And I also think that we need to be reviewing the ed tech that we are thinking about rolling out through the K through 12 district as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? So now we just received the minutes, right? That's right. Okay. We're going to move on to the items referred to the committee, and we'll just go in order of how they are on the agenda. The first one is 26.022, in order to appropriate 2.166 million free cash to various capital projects. And this was referred to finance on the March 19th, 2026 meeting. And are you able to bring that up, Laura? So this is most of it is money that is being spent on the Northampton Public Schools and some from IT and a few other things. So anybody on Finance Committee want to speak to it?
So we're going to have a discussion about this, and then we're going to, right after this, we're going to take public comment on each item.
Yeah. So, Councilor Miori.
Yeah, so I'm just hearing about this desire to have this go through the school committee.
Right.
So I'd like to hear more about that.
We just got an email right before the
Oh, I
meeting
didn't see it. What did it say?
that they want to take these things off and wait, and so the school committee could discuss these items first.
Okay.
So there's no, I mean, the only reason they said is so they have time to discuss it, but I mean, this has been on the agenda, and then we had the capital improvement book for a few weeks already, I'm talking, and there's been opportunity to look at it, and just to clarify that we get this information that Dr. Bonner asks the principals of the school committee to let her know what they need for the students and for the schools, and this is the list they got from the principals. And and it's not typical that the school committee or the budget and property discusses this, but they certainly had time to discuss it because it's, we presented it, and the book has been out for a while. And then, just to be clear too, and to ask Director Nardi, so if we don't vote any of these things, these items, will this change where the money is going? Will it go to the operating budget, and how will it be available? What would happen to the money if these items aren't approved?
Good question. So the answer is if these weren't voted, the money wouldn't move. It would be left in the free cash. And it doesn't affect the operating budget or what's decided for the upcoming operating budget in any form. We do not use free cash, and that's not what I'm waiting for, is to find out what that balance is. We don't use free cash for the operating budget.
Okay, so just to clarify, it couldn't be used to hire people or salaries.
No, because
It
if
just-
you do that, it's a recurring cost.
Mhm.
These are not.
Mhm.
Ideally, the idea is that this was a way to help the schools in a different way,
Mhm.
but no, these are not recurring costs for the school.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Robbins.
Thank you. Having listened to the school committee budget and property meeting the other day, and which had some conversation around this, and I think it's great that there are expenses that are in the capital improvement plan for the schools. It's a great way to subsidize existing costs and perhaps open up funds for other really needed items that are in the school that are going to be proposed in the school budget. But these items have not gone in front of the school committee. The school committee is a branch of city government, and they have every right to be able to review it, to add, to delete, to discuss. And it seems to be a pretty germane process to allow to happen and to get their feedback on it. The superintendent works for the school committee, and this is a conversation that they only meet once a month. Maybe they'll have an extra meeting. The budget and property might want to meet more, but they have to go back and have the whole body be able to consider it and talk about it. And since there's no rush to approve the capital improvement plan, it doesn't have to be approved until when? Late May?
May 31st.
Yeah, it seems really a good idea to let the other experts who really understand what's going on with this, to have their voices weigh in on it.
Mayor.
Yeah, can I just like to speak to the process a little bit? So I'm fully happy with, going forward if the school committee wants to talk about the capital projects when this process is happening, absolutely. So just to note, there are two school committee members that sit on the capital improvement advisory committee, or did this year. There used to be one, I added another one. So actually, one of them is now on this body and is in this committee. So Counselor Davis had been a school committee member who was on the school committee in the fall and sat on the advisory committee and made recommendations. Member Martin, who you heard from, was the other person. So, and on that committee, both of them, agreed with the committee to recommend these projects. And while these capital projects are in the school budget book, they're sort of listed in there, they're not part of the school budget in any way, just to be clear. So these are these are items, as Director Nardi said, that don't affect the school operating budget. Additionally, what's sort of confusing for me about this request, or some of this request, is that two of these items, the JFK Music Science and Technology Equipment and the NHS Goals program furniture, are actually items from the mid-year appropriation request, which came from the school committee. And I took directly from the document, the proposal written by member Jewell, which the whole school committee voted to ask us to fund those projects. So it's confusing to me that they feel like they haven't talked about them, because this is actually directly a request that came from the school committee. Some of the other ones have certainly been discussed in other ways. The strategic plan's been discussed by Dr. Bonner before at school committee. Cell phone policy has been discussed many times in the previous committee, the current committee. And then, the freezer refrigerator wall unit, that's a request coming from Ms. Delhanna, who handles all food service, and from Dr. Bonner, because that is a really important, I think from your book, and I can read it again. I think there's a unit that's non-functional that the schools need. So those are the items that are, and I think they all have really significant merit, and some of them have definitely been discussed by the school committee.
Thank you. Director Nardi.
I just want to add, so there is time sensitivity with, when we talk about, they don't need to be voted until May. Schools items happen over the summers before the kids come back, or excuse me, not kids, the students come back. So we want to make sure that these projects have the time that they need to complete them and get them in place before students come back in the fall.
Councilor Robbins.
Thank you. Just to say that, although I think a number of us really appreciated having a capital improvement plan discussion happen in public, where if people were able to access it and listen to it. Member Martin was not a member of the school committee during those sessions yet. She was invited as having been voted in, and was not present. And I don't believe that she voted high priority on these. However, we didn't see that part of it. So the voting on what were priorities and the actual outcome of all of it was not made public at that time. And all of these items really are, it's not about pulling them out and saying which we approve of and which ones we think are important, because clearly there are a number of them on there that we would say, yes, they're very good ideas, having the refrigerator wall unit, having these things. But I'm still going to say that there's plenty of time to let the school committee do the job that it's elected to do in terms of overseeing what the priorities are for their budget. And I think we would really be crossing a boundary to take that on ourselves at this point. And I want to honor that request from two members who've contacted us. And since this is fairly quick, we might have heard it from others. I'm not sure.
Again, I just have to note, this is not their budget. It is not the school committee's budget that this money comes from in any way.
And these items were also requested by the principals and Member Jewell. And even if they were not.
Member Jewell is
Okay,
not here.
so
Yeah, she's not here
please-
to say that. So, yeah.
I'm talking, please, let
Sorry.
me finish. And now you lost my train of thought, so please don't interrupt though, because
I'm
it's
sorry.
really hard
I'm
to.
very sorry, but yeah.
Want to go to the member of the public, and then I had
Why don't
something
you
to
go,
say,
we'll
but-
finish up here and then we can go and then come back.
Well, I don't know if it's finishing. Well, I was just going to say, this is the first I'm hearing of this. I worked today. I didn't see any emails. I don't, we're tasked with giving a recommendation. I would be comfortable giving I don't, because this is one order, I'm pondering whether we can give a positive recommendation for some and a neutral for the others. I just would like to sort this out, because I'm just hearing of this now. So I could, so that's a possibility, but either a neutral recommendation or a positive recommendation for the non-school items. And then we, this won't slow anything down. We'll still be voting at this point on Tuesday, but I'd like to understand a little bit more what's going on. So
And just to clarify, I got this email about 3 o'clock today.
Right.
So none of us had time to.
I know, I'm
really,
just saying, because I
yeah,
haven't
no,
had
it's-
time.
Yeah, no, we're,
You're
both
validating.
of us were working today together, so.
Yeah, we're in the
Uh,
same meeting, so,
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Would you like to speak, Daryl?
My name is Drew Richard. I live in Ward
Turn to-
That table, that goes up now if you want it. There's buttons there if you want to. What? At the what?
That might be too high. You can press 3 if that's too high.
Okay.
But this needs.
Thank you. My name is Drew Richard, and I'm a resident of Ward 3. I have a rising kindergartner in the Bridge Street district, and I am here to speak about the capital expenditure today. I want to acknowledge, first of all, that any sort of additional business around these issues affecting the schools certainly makes things, I guess, more complicated than they have been, at least in the previous few years, and creates more work for the council. And I think I just want to note that we've just come out of a very contentious election season here in Northampton, and I think everybody's worked really hard to sort of get in saddle here and get back to work. I want to express gratitude for that and say that, I think that maybe accounts for some of these difficulties of communication, and I'm hopeful that they will resolve themselves in the future. I think for better or worse, regardless of what your opinion is about the state of the schools or Dr. Bonner's performance as superintendent in particular, it's totally fair to say that the superintendent's relationship with several members of the school committee is contentious and occasionally difficult. So that may also account for some of the reasons why you have requests coming from Dr. Bonner, who is channeling what she says are the desires of the principals and other staff. And you're also hearing from the school committee that they're not accurate reflections of what the school committee would like to do. The particular capital expenditure that I take issue with right now is sort of somewhere between a capital expense and a recurring expense. It's $1 million to replace and upgrade all of the Chromebooks in the district over the next 5 years. Other commenters have mentioned that a lot of parents aren't really thrilled about the expansion of ed tech use or the spending this money right now. And they've spoken about how this is a fast evolving issue that's in the media a lot. And I think a premature decision about this could age really, really quickly before the life of that expenditure has elapsed. I just want to say two things. The first one is I do think that spending that money in particular or committing to spend that money at today's meeting could strain this body's relationship with the school committee because they have committed to undertaking a review of tech spending. And this is by far the largest tech spending item that the city is considering right now. And I think it would be wise to give them an opportunity to begin that review before this is done. I think some of them do feel that they need to put their stamp on this issue, not only in a deliberative way, but by thinking very carefully about what's going to be going on with a new superintendent beginning next year. They have mentioned this expenditure specifically on more than one occasion inside of the council meeting. And while I agree that this is not the same as a school committee budget, I was at the committee meeting for the school committee on Tuesday, and member Sainer Sullivan really wanted to hear from the mayor, and not in a combative way, in a very collaborative way, about the effects of passing what they're calling the strong budget on the city's overall fiscal health. And I think Mayor Shera, in a very forthright and accurate way, described very serious potential consequences of doing that. And so there is a conversation unfolding at the school committee as they decide what type of budget to endorse about being responsible stewards of their place in the city's overall fiscal health. And in that respect, they are being asked to interact in a very substantive way with the decisions you're making here. The last thing I want to say is that the kinds of things that happen in the context of those conversations are, for instance, the only elementary school in Northampton, as I understand it, that is staffed to the degree that the principal would like with interventionists for both reading and math is Ryan Road School. And they have twice as many reading interventionists as the other elementary schools. This was brought up by Member Stein. It was discussed vis-a-vis the whole committee. And unfortunately, what Dr. Bonner said is based on the cuts that we're trying to achieve to meet the mayor's targeted budget, we're going to have to fire half of those reading interventionists. And so I understand that that staffing issue is a recurring expense and that this capital expenditure is not. And so they don't seem to be an immediate conversation, but we're still faced with a scenario where we're about to spend $1 million to get better computers than we previously had while making some really, really difficult cuts to staff who've done really good work. And so I'm
That's
just...
been more than 3 minutes.
I'm just asking the committee to consider those things in the larger conversation of the city's fiscal health and tact accordingly. Thank
Could you
you.
say your name and where you're from?
Sure. My name is Drew Richard, and I live in Ward 3 here in Northampton.
Thank you. And yeah, just to clarify that this money, if it's not spent on the computers or anything on this list, will not go to staffing, like Director Nardi just said. This will not go to the operating budget. This is free cash, and it's not recurring funds, so we can't hire staff with it because the money won't be there next year.
I don't think it's time for us to reflect on public comment yet until we get to that place on the agenda. I think we're just listening at this point.
I'm just clarifying something that he said, so.
Right, but what I said was that the school committee is thinking about whether they should preserve those positions. They haven't decided what kind of budget to recommend. And in the course of those conversations, they're asking questions about what does the city's overall budget as a big picture look like as they're trying to decide how aggressive should we be in making requests.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I just clarify the process that we're using? Because I'm really confused.
Go ahead.
So my understanding is that we had open comments about things that were not specific items on this agenda at the beginning. Although I think we did hear some that I think I'm going to include on that list because I think they were relevant. Most of them were relevant. And now we're hearing items by number that are on the orders that were referred to us, and that we're going to listen to public comment on each item. And I don't understand the process. Are we listening to the public comment and then
Yes.
having a discussion and then going on to the next item and having and listening to
Yeah.
public comment and having a discussion?
Right.
And at what point do we declare the end to the public comment for when we have a
Well, since there's
discussion?
one person here and nobody on Zoom is speaking, I think we're,
But I think I would like to know that formally, just to say, okay, we've heard from the public and now let's open it up to discussion, and the council would just be helpful.
right. So if anybody else has anything to say, they could speak now, and then we'll vote on this item and then move on to the next item.
Well, we'll have our discussion together about it and then we'll vote on it.
Yeah, we spoke about it already. If anybody has anything else to say about this item, then we'll vote.
We're not going to reflect on what we heard in public comment?
Yeah, if you want to speak now, you could speak now about it. And we're just going to move on to the next item afterwards.
So are we going to vote on this specific item before we move on to the next item?
Yes. We'll vote on each item and not as a group.
By item, do you mean order?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
each order, thank you.
Checking.
Yeah,
Okay.
each order. So we're gonna, if anybody else has anything to say about 26.022, we could speak and then we'll vote on it afterwards and then we'll move on to the next item, order.
I'd like to speak about what we heard. So in public comment, what we heard was, I think we heard every single voice asking us to please hold this and allow the school committee to do their work. And there were specific reasons on specific items that people wanted them to consider before they came back to us. And I'm going to reiterate that I don't think we on this council are in a position to decide on these items that have not gone in front of the other body that would like to have a voice in it.
Okay, anybody else? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Member Davis. Please go ahead.
It's okay.
I'm actually listening right now on Zoom to this. stupid-
Oh, the fourth one. Yeah, we just gave him speech therapy, picked up our groceries, we're headed.
Yeah, Meg is the only one who's trying to hold the fort.
Thank God for
Hi there.
Maybe you want to mute
Hang on a
that.
second.
Yes, you identified my Robin. I forget.
Hold on.
Yeah, so thanks for all you do. I don't know what to say.
Okay, I think I got
Should I
it.
speak now? I wanted to clarify, remember, Robbins mentioned this and a suggestion about separating things out. Is that even, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but is that even like an option when it's presented as an order in this fashion? Is that even something to consider, or does that have to come? Would that have to come back in that in that manner before us to vote on it if it's in a different format, or does it have to be?
You mean to, each of.
Yeah, yeah, if each item, because we're looking at it as a whole, I
Right.
thought, and voting on it as that way, whether to recommend it one way or another to the whole
I don't
committee.
think we can just
Yeah.
pick it apart and vote on each separate item. though.
Okay,
It is something the council has done before, not in committee, but in council, to have a motion to divide the question, to separately consider
uh-huh.
a certain
But-
number of orders, and then that vote has to either pass or not. And then, if it passes, then they are considered separately. I've seen that done in the full council. I haven't seen it done in committee.
Not, okay. And also, I guess I would just want to point out too, I think it's a really important point that this is not part of the, as the mayor noted, that it's not part of the school committee budget. I think that that's a significant point to keep in mind. And that the SIP has been out and available to peruse for a bit of time for the school committee to see these things that are on there. Thanks.
And this is our recommendation to full council. So it's, can I finish talking, please? Please just give me 2 seconds to finish my sentence. This is a recommendation from Finance Committee to the full council. So we're going to keep this as a whole and then move forward from there. Go ahead, Councilor Rob.
My point of information was that I think there was some confusion with Aileen in saying that I was going to pull it out. If there are items on here to pull out, I did not recommend that. What I recommended was listening to the school committee members who asked us not to vote or to vote neutrally, to hold this for them to be able to consider as a whole. And it wasn't to say that we should pull out one piece of it or one item. I'm not sure if I didn't say that clearly. Thank you.
The problem is that there are items in this order that are not school committee items that need to be passed soon so they can get bids on these items. They're not all school items. There's fire, there's DPW, Smith Voc. So we're going to take this as a whole now and make a recommendation for to send. Oh,
Can divide it though.
we can.
Yeah.
But-
You're saying you're going to do something, but we haven't decided by doing.
To divide it?
You
Is
said
it-
we were going to keep these all together. And I'm
Right.
just pointing at my point of order, my point of information is that we can.
Take a vote to see, to
Yeah,
divide it?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a possibility. But not.
So
Mayor,
can I make a
So-
motion to this?
could the mayor finish talking,
So-
please?
The full council can always reduce something, so you can always divide it, right?
Mhm.
And vote on things separately. As a recommendation, I'm not sure that you can actually take this apart.
So we could take it apart for the full council on Tuesday, but not today.
I mean, Laura, I don't know what, because yes, I agree, we've divided, or when I was on, we would divide the question, but
Ask the city.
as, as the full council,
Right. I mean, we've confirmed with the city solicitor that that's an appropriate process in the past.
Right.
I haven't ever, actually asked about dividing an order for the purpose of a recommendation in committee.
right? Because you always have the power to reduce something, so you can change it in that way, but otherwise you can't change it.
I'm curious too, when would the school committee be able to discuss this and get back to us with this information? Because this needs to be done, sent out to bid and done before the next school year. We try to do this stuff over the summer. So how long will it take for the school committee to review all this? Councilor Robbins.
I think it would be a really good idea to invite the school committee to come and talk to us about that. So that might be informative. We've had department chairs come and talk to us about their proposals on the SIP, and it might be helpful to have the school committee do that as well. I'd be very happy to have another meeting to clarify that soon, if that would help.
Another finance meeting or just a general meeting?
we could do a finance meeting. If we're unclear about what our vote would be if we pass this as a whole, and you're concerned about being able to approve items that you feel are more time sensitive, then we should be clear on what we're voting for before we vote for it.
Mayor.
So school committee members as individuals don't have the power to speak for the school committee except for the vice chair. But the school committee would have to vote as a body to ask the vice chair to come and speak and represent them in that way.
What I would like to do is just vote on this now, and then on Tuesday, could we at that point separate it out, or if people wanted to? On Tuesday, though, or,
We think we can do it now, but
no, I'm talking, no, we don't think we could do it now because
We can't,
we haven't done it for subcommittees, she said.
I know that doesn't mean we can't do it. We would just have to call Solicitor Seawald if that's something we're interested.
Okay, when we-
Just trying to clarify.
Mhm.
That would be something we'd have to take a
But
risk to call.
sorry.
Yeah, no, call Solicitor Seawald just to clarify if we can divide it. I was only saying that about the recommendations because.
But I'm unclear when the school committee will be able to discuss this, because they had time already that they could have done it. They came to us an hour before the meeting, and how much time would they need, and how much would it delay their items on the order?
Right.
Councilor Murray.
Oh, yeah, I just have just a couple of, one thing is, I'm not really moved by, the SIP has been out and now, because, I mean, this is the process. The point of a subcommittee and full council is opportunities for people to weigh in. So I don't want to, I don't personally describe that it's kind of too late so I just wanted to put that there. I wanted a clarification. I heard people saying $1 million for Chromebooks.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I did want to clarify that. So that's over the 5 years of the SIP.
Oh, okay.
It's I think
Okay, I was
it's
looking to-
200 in
So
for this year.
This year, it's 200,000.
Okay. And
So that would be rolling out new computers every class,
okay. And I guess, oh, sorry. I guess, I mean, what we generally do at this point is we make a recommendation, either negative, neutral, or positive. I personally have, could positively recommend, I see a lot of items there. I'm just hearing about this now, the other ones. So that's why I thought about dividing, because just in terms of a recommendation, I don't know if perhaps Council Robbins and others are talking about a delay or something. I was just talking about issuing a recommendation. We have our meeting on Tuesday, but, open to ideas.
Right. Councilor Robbins.
Well, there are other items in here that I'd like to sort of make a suggestion about, or to rethink and maybe reprogram. So there are still, there are other items here besides the NPS pieces.
Right.
I would be, I think if we could pull out the NPS pieces and have a separate vote on that, to hold it and vote on those other items. If we need to contact Attorney Seawald to get clarification about that, maybe we should be doing that. Because so we could have, if we're going to pull it out, then we would have a discussion about some of the
Okay.
other individual items here that we would not be pulling out and then voting on separately.
I think maybe we should call Attorney Seawald and see if it's even an option. So,
Laura has said that it's been a past practice.
no, I think we should call Attorney Seawald and clarify that before we move forward. So let's take a 5-minute recess and call him. We'll be back at 4:45. Okay, so Attorney Sewell said today we can vote. It's a recommendation, and we can make a positive, neutral, or negative recommendation, or we can abstain from voting. We cannot pull this item apart and split it up. And just to clarify, the 200,000, the $1 million that people are talking about for the computers, the Chromebooks, that's over 5 years. It is this year. It's $200,000 for the that will be used to buy Chromebooks. It's not $1 million this year. So, does anybody else have any comments or? Okay, so Laura, if you would mind voting. I mean,
Do we have to make a motion?
oh wait, because
Well, I was going to discuss it with my fellow. I'm wondering if we, you know, could neutrally recommend this and bring it to Tuesday and with more clarification. So I guess a motion to neutrally recommend 26.022.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, so motion made by Councilor Maori and seconded by Councilor Robbins. Okay, any discussion? Councilor Robbins.
I
Oh.
I have a question or
Okay, do you mind if she?
No.
Councilor Davis.
and stop me if it's inappropriate to say why neutral versus positive, because I'm not clear why neutral, just because there seems to be just concerns about this, and so therefore it wouldn't be an overwhelming all four of us saying one thing, and so maybe it's appropriate to say neutral since it seems somewhat divided. Is that what would be appropriate?
Right.
Yeah, we can vote however we want.
Right.
But on the floor, a motion to have a neutral recommendation. But you can vote however you see fit.
I think,
Okay.
point of information, I think she's asking me why I
Why
made
you
that
did it?
motion. Is that okay if I,
Yeah, sure.
is that okay with you?
Is that what you're asking?
Well, I guess both. Yeah.
Process.
Yeah.
You
It's like,
wanna
what
do-
are the circumstances that one would, whether in this situation or another, vote neutrally? It's
Right.
sort of like I could take it or leave it. It's sort of like that, or because it's still somewhat unclear. Because I always wonder about, like, if something is neutral that doesn't offer much guidance to the full council of what we thought, but on the other hand, maybe it's perfect because there were questions brought up.
So I just wanted to tell you what I was thinking, and then I agree about the neutral. And I don't tend to do it very often because it doesn't offer guidance. I was just saying that because we can't divide it. When I look at this list, and I would positively support most of it. I mean, I think it's more for me, the neutrality is about the fact that there seems to be some question about process, and I wanted more time to mull that over, but I also didn't want this to get delayed. So this is, so this would still go for go to council on Tuesday, but I'm open to other ideas, but that's why I made the motion.
Councilor Robbins.
Thank you. We had this in city services where we made a neutral recommendation where we found a consensus on what we wanted to do. And what we decided to do was to bring that back to council and say, we've made a neutral recommendation, and here was our thinking behind the members of the group.
Point of order. That was incorrect, though. Any of us could have voted any way we saw fit. There was a belief by the
I'm going to finish my thought. Okay.
There's a point of order. There was a belief by the chair, and none of us were very clear about how we could have voted. Unfortunately, Laura wasn't here that day. We could have voted any way we want, and then you send it with you don't send it with a unanimous recommendation, so we're not bound to vote this way.
I'm going to finish what I was saying.
Go ahead.
We did vote to have a neutral recommendation. We agreed to have consensus on that with the caveat that when we brought it back to council, we would explain how we came to that vote. And that gave each person who made that vote a chance to be able to say what their rationale was. And I thought that was a very good move towards our conversation, towards being able to say, I recognize that you have a concern around this, and I'm going to be able to listen to you and bring it back to the larger body and have a conversation and let them know. I think what Councillor Davis is saying is, how will we let the council know what was behind our neutral decision? And that we do have the opportunity to simply explain it. This was our conversation. These were the things that were concerning us. And if it came back to council again, that gives school committee members and that gives the public a chance to be able to come in and have their voices heard as well.
Okay, anybody else want to speak?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So, so there's a motion on the floor, but we are free to say no.
Correct.
Okay.
Or yes.
Or yes. Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anybody
and
else?
just a point of clarification from the chair that if we did vote neutrally, I would like to express my positive support individually during the meeting. I'm trying to get through the agenda. So I
Right,
thought- anyway, yep, just to clarify my thinking.
Anybody else have anything to say? Okay, where would you do the roll call first?
Councillor Clemmer,
Yes.
motion for a neutral recommendation.
It's to appropriate 2.166 million free cash to various capital projects.
Okay, Councillor Robbins,
Neutral recommendation, yes.
Councillor Davis,
No.
and Councillor Maori.
Yes.
I meant to say I vote for a positive recommendation, not yes to the neutral recommendation.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's
So
not.
you're a no?
No to neutral, but yes to the,
But there's not a motion.
There's not a vote.
oh, okay, so no.
So I guess the motion didn't pass then.
Mhm.
2 yeses, 2 nos. Okay.
Okay, so any more, so we could just send it with a, what happens there?
We don't have a recommendation
Okay.
to send it with. We could, someone else could make a motion. You can do a motion to reconsider.
With any other motion? I don't think anybody's going to change their mind. Councillor Robbins.
Well, we could vote on it again. 'Cause sometimes that happens. This is what happens when you have 4. So sometimes you're going to have a place where there's 2 people thinking one and 2
Okay,
people
we need to
thinking
make
another.
another motion then.
But we could do that, or we could send it without a recommendation, and
Mhm.
that's a possibility.
So would anybody else like to make a recommendation? Okay, I will move to send this to full council with a positive recommendation.
I'm sorry, how did we get there?
We're making another motion. Because we voted on that motion already.
Okay.
But is there a second or?
I'll,
For
So-
positive recommendation for this
Okay.
to go to council is what's I'm proposing.
I would second that.
Okay. So roll call again. please.
Councillor Robbins,
No.
Councillor Davis,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
No.
and Councillor Clemmer.
Yes. Okay, so again, doesn't pass, so we could just move it to council with no recommendation. Okay. Next. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is 26.025, in order to appropriate 1.35 million from capital stabilization to various capital projects. Laura, would you be able to pull that, please?
Move to approve? Or, we can discuss it before, or I can,
No, it's good. It's, anybody want to second it, or?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So motion made by Counselor Maori and seconded by Counselor Davis.
yes, positively
Positive
recommend, but we-
recommendation.
you know, can
Yeah.
have a discussion. I just wanted to get the motion. on.
Sure, thank you. Anybody want to discuss this, or?
Yes.
Yes, you did. Maori and Davis.
Can I just say, I just think these things are clearly, were discussed, much needed, detailed items that a lot of people don't know about, all these detailed things that happen in the city, but are worthwhile for our city.
Okay, anybody else on council? Okay. So are there any questions from anybody? Oh, okay. I'm trying to move the thing here. Okay, I just can't see everybody. Okay, so since there's no discussion, roll call, please, Laura.
David. Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer,
Yes.
and Counselor Robbins.
Yes.
Okay, that was easy. So we'll move on to item C now. Oh, so that passes with a positive recommendation. Item C is 26.026. It's an order to authorize borrowing 1.8 million for City Hall roof replacement and exterior repairs. So would somebody like to make a recommendation?
Move towards a positive recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
It's a motion made by Councilor Maori, seconded by Councilor Davis. Is there any discussion? And just a reminder, this was, the roof is in bad shape and badly needs replacement. And as we know, the longer you put these projects off, the more extensive the repairs are. So Mayor Shara.
I just want to add to that. This is also rolling in the exterior repairs that we've been trying to do for a few years. So it's kind of putting those two together for borrowing.
Thank you. Anybody else? So roll call, please, Laura.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer,
Yes.
Counselor Robbins,
Yes.
and Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Okay, so that passes with a positive recommendation. Item D is 26.027, in order to authorize borrowing $1 million for sidewalks. And Director Laskaya gave a presentation about that and spoke to it, and I'm just pulling. Okay. I could just read the order. It's pretty quick. Ordered that a sum of $1 million is appropriate to pay costs of sidewalk engineering, design, and reconstruction, including all costs incidental and related thereto. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said amount under Chapter 44, Section 7(1) of the general laws, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes to the city thereof, and that the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary or convenient to carry this project. Would somebody like to make a recommendation?
I'd like to ask a question.
Okay, can we have a recommendation first, though? or-
I'd like to, oh, I'm sorry.
No, Counselor Davis,
I'd like to make a recommendation to approve the sidewalk,
positive recommendation.
the positive
Yeah.
recommendation for the sidewalk work.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made for a positive recommendation by Counselor Davis, seconded by Counselor Maori. Counselor Robbins, you had a question? Or
I did
statement?
for Director Nardi. When we spoke earlier about the debt service on this, would this be for 2026 or is this would be something you're not borrowing until 2027 as well?
So this one would be borrowed, so for FY '27.
Okay, thank you.
To authorize borrowing 1.5 million for road reconstruction. And Director LaScalia also presented this to us at the last council meeting, similar to the last one, so I'm not going to read it again. Would somebody like to make a recommendation?
Move to full council with a positive recommendation.
Give anybody second?
Second.
So move to approve by Councilor Maori, seconded by Councilor Robbins. Any discussion? Okay, Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Robbins,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
and Counselor Clemmer.
Yes. Okay, so that passes with a positive recommendation. Next is 26.029, an order to authorize borrowing $700,000 for DPW vehicles. So would somebody like to make a recommendation?
Move to positively recommend to full council.
You second, anybody?
Second.
So motion made by Counselor Maori, seconded by Counselor Robbins. Yeah, so this is just to keep the fleet of specialized vehicles working, and Director LaScalia felt that the repairs, these vehicles couldn't be repaired anymore, and it'd be more expensive to keep them and try to maintain them than it would be to buy some new vehicles, so we can count on them to work when we have to plow the roads, etc. So any discussion? Oh, Director Nardi.
I would just like to add, so I did speak with Counselor Robbins earlier today, and I just wanted to be clear, wow, this is really loud. So I don't borrow for all of the projects in the same year that we vote them. And I just wanted to be clear, I spoke with you and I said geothermal was being borrowed in FY '26 and it'll hit the budget in FY '27. That is also true for the City Hall roof. I just want to be clear, but all the other ones will actually be borrowed in FY '27. And that is in part because like when you talk about the vehicles, it takes us so long to get a vehicle. We wouldn't want to borrow the money now because it will just sit until we actually know the vehicles are coming in. So I just wanted to be clear and I wanted to clarify for you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing as there's no other discussion, Laura, roll call, please.
Sure. Counselor Davis,
Appropriate from stabilization and reprogram 450,000 to replace Academy of Music boiler. Somebody like to make a recommendation?
I'd make a recommendation to approve this.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes.
So motion made by Councilor Robbins, seconded by Councilor Maori. So this was, one of the boilers failed. There's one boiler that's working, but it's very old, and we're hopeful that it lasts till we can get it replaced. So it does need to be, the money needs to be given to for this project soon, since it'll probably get cold again here sooner rather than later. Any other discussion? Laura, roll call, please.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer,
Yes.
Counselor Robbins,
Yes.
and Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Okay, so that passes with a positive recommendation. So that takes care of the items that were referred to us. So the next thing on the agenda is this is 3 years, so we need to start thinking about auditing service and a discussion of independent audit procurement process. So I just want to give us all some information today, and we could start thinking about how we'd like to proceed, because I mean, Lori can give us a timeline, but there isn't a lot of time to get all this information if we do decide. So that's why I just want us to have a little bit of information that we have and start thinking about how we'd like to proceed with this. So Laura, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I don't have much new information to report. Unfortunately, I was hoping to have a quote from Scanlon and Associates today, but I haven't yet received it. I had just shared with you that 2 of the 4 firms that had responded to the city's last RFP in 2015 have now merged with a larger firm, Markham LLP, and that's Powers and Sullivan merged in February of 2024, and Mellons and Heath merged with Markham in 2023. So its website calls it, I think, a top 20 firm located in New York City. So it's now, these 2 are now part of a larger, don't know if it's appropriate to call it conglomerate based in New York that services all of New England. And the other 2, Clifton, Larson, Allen, and Scanlon Associates, were the other 2 that we did receive, what do you call them, bids, proposals from. And Clifton Larson's website does say it serves over 70 municipalities in Massachusetts. And they didn't respond to our RFP in 2015, but anyways, the only other piece of news relative to the audit that I've become aware of is just the turnover that's expected in the school department. As everybody knows, Superintendent Bonner is leaving, and the school business office assistant position was posted February 6th, and then the school business administrator and school assistant business manager were both posted in February of 2013. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
February 13th. So there's, a similar turnover in key financial positions within the school department, which was just one of the factors that was cited when the committee decided not to recommend going out for new auditing services back in 2023. So that's all I have.
Thank you. And so we're just waiting from Scanlon.
Yes, I prompted him again. I asked him initially in February and prompted him again last week, but it's a very busy time of year for him. So
Okay, well, thanks for following up on that and for the information. And Councilor Mary.
Yeah, so we're waiting for the final report, or?
we have received the final report.
Right, by March 1st.
Yes, and I sent that out to
Okay, good.
counselors. Yes, but we're waiting for.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if we were adding. Okay. So are we going to discuss anyway?
Yeah, so just to, I asked Laura to just get a quote from Scanlon to know if, what his cost is. We're not sure if the other companies will give us a quote without, more of following through with a little bit more. So, but also to find out their process. If like one thing that Scanlon does is they take phone calls and we don't get charged per call. So we, that's a big savings for us. We want to see if other companies will operate the same way. If we can find out that information ahead of time. But, okay, Director Nardi, did you? Oh,
I have my hand up.
I didn't see you.
Council, thank you.
I have cataracts. Didn't see you.
I'm not sure what the outcome of this discussion would be, given we don't have other input, but before we do any of this, I think it'd be really good to have some sense of what the protocol is and what we're looking for. And we haven't had that discussion, and perhaps that's something we need to be more informed about before we decide putting out RFPs or doing this.
So, it's the 3 years are up, they get 3-year contracts. So, what we have to decide is if we want to do a full search and talk to these other companies, and or if we just want to find out some basic information to start, and and just the fact that there's a big turnover in the school committee, the 4 top financial people are going to be gone. So take that into consideration. There's the timeline is, do you know it offhand?
Yes, I mean, the charter requires the city council to award a contract by September 15th every 3 years. And the last time was September 15th, 2023. So September 15th, 2026.
But as you can see, this takes time to reach out to these people to get responses and all that. Councilor Robbins.
That actually wasn't my question. My question was really, I think we want to have a richer discussion about what we want from an auditing firm.
Mhm.
So what is it we really, we need to be accountable for every penny that we spend of residents' money. And I want to make sure that folks know what the audit means. It's a big discussion in the state right now as well. So it's kind of topical around there, but it might be a really good time to be able to be very sure about what it is we want. I have watched the last few presentations by the Scanlon firm, and they've been really good. And I think I mentioned before what I missed from those presentations. I assume we're going to have one on this this new audit soon. Was we are now the finance committee, but the finance committee hadn't had time, I think, to really sit down and think about what is it we want to know? How do we pull apart this audit and really get some information from it about where we're handling our money well, where there's some challenges. I think there was a discussion in the last one about doing deeper audits in some areas, and I would love us to be able to have an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. This was just a small intro, just to put it out there. Of course, we're going to have more discussion about it, but I just want to get us thinking about it and thinking of questions and, what you feel about this information we have with the turnover in the school, school upper staffing, and then just with the other firms merging and not being local like Scanlon is, and just, questions you might have. So this is just a very brief introduction of what's going on so far. Director Nardi.
So I just want to share, again, I have learned what Laura learned as well. And I've also, speaking with other communities that are using the larger firms, they are behind in their audits. Some of them have not even had their FY24 audit completed yet. And I know the smaller firms that Laura mentioned are being called to be asked them to take on these communities that these larger firms are in charge of because they can't keep up. In addition, the concerns I have with the larger firms is they don't show up, they don't come, you don't have FaceTime with these people because they're so far away. They're not there for you when you get calls. And that doesn't mean that, we don't have to wait sometimes because it's a busy time of year, but for the most part, I want somebody who's knows Northampton, knows who we are, and isn't just charging us for every dime. And just in response to, I've been asked this a lot about the different types of audits. There are 3 types of audits. The type of audit that you're hiring for is a financial audit of our books. And what that does is it makes sure we're in compliance, that we are accounting for our money in the right places, and then accounts for our fiscal health. The types of audit that I think people are interested in, and this is me making assumptions, but like an operational audit, which says, is this the best way we spend our money? Do we have too many people here? Do we not have enough? Do we need, that's an operational audit, and it's not what the auditing firms that we're contacting generally do. I've never gone out for one. I don't, I'm not saying I profess knowledge about that, but that is a different type of audit with a different type of firm. And then there's your forensic audit, which is you believe that there's a concern about the way you.
So anybody that we would hire would just do the operational audit, right? Is that the one you said?
The financial
audit, yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
what I believe your charter talks about is the financial audit.
Yeah, I just want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilor Robbins.
So I actually, this might be before your time, but I do think that there was an operational audit. There was a consultant that was hired to look at the operations of the DPW, I think, when Ned Huntley was still here, and came up with some recommendations, and some of them were carried through and some of them weren't carried through. But would that have been called an operational audit or a consultant who was hired to come and look at the operations?
So how plowing should work so that they
can come in and talk about the operations and get a good handle and then report back. So it's usually focused on one department, and it's usually, you would hire different people for different departments. Thank you.
Mayor.
I don't know that this is the case, but I'm wondering if maybe that was when we went from having a Board of Public Works to having that be handled by the council and the mayor. So that might have been part of that process of sort of reorganizing how Public Works and those decisions were made. It may not have been. I'm just wondering if that was the case, because that was a big shift in how, like water and sewer rates were set, things like that.
Any other discussion? Okay, so, yeah, we'll set up a time to talk about this more in depth at a later meeting, and we'll have information from Scanlon. I don't think it makes sense to do anything until we have some more information, but I just want to put it out there. We could start thinking of questions and taking the information that we were given today, Councilor Robbins.
And are we already formally signed up with them to come and talk to us about this audit, the FY
Yeah,
26 audit? Do we have a date? Do we have something?
We don't have a date. The Council President, Maori and I decided we would have that presentation at a finance meeting where that'll be the agenda. We'll have a lot more time to ask questions, get
So
information.
Have we asked the firm to give us a date to do that?
Well, we have to find some dates that work for us, and then we'll give them to Scanlon and see what mutually works, and then we'll set it up. Anything else? Okay, so any new business? Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
Okay, roll call, please.
Sure. Counselor Robbins,
yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
and Counselor Clemmer.
Yes. Hey, everybody, thanks very much. Have a good night.